As we consider each of the world's major religious traditions, the crucial question is, what is the ultimate truth in this religion? The question behind that question is a vital one. How can people who hold radically different beliefs understand and respect one another? Well, a basic assumption of any talk about religion is taken from the Bible's book of Job. I have uttered what I did not understand, things too wonderful for me, which I did not know. With that in mind, we first should consider a few important basic concepts. We consider religious traditions with and without God. God, that's a challenging concept. Rather, it's a whole spectrum of challenging concepts, as we'll see. Where might one seek God or ultimate value? Beyond, transcendent, or within, immanent? A Hindu would readily answer, yes. Oh, what logic is at work in such a response? Not the conventional logic of either or. Rather, a logic of the balance of opposites, both and. Two contraries are both true, because either one without the other is false. How is our language working if we utter things too wonderful for me which I did not know? The Buddha said, I must state clearly that my teaching is a method to experience reality and not reality itself, just as a finger pointing to the moon is not the moon itself. A person who looks only at the finger and mistakes it for the moon will never see the real moon. Philosopher Alfred North Whitehead said, the dogmatic fallacy is to think our words capture the reality. Our words are symbol and metaphor. We speak of what we do not and cannot know in terms of what we do know. To focus on our words, on any doctrines then, is only to look at the finger, and so to completely miss the pointing beyond. Now we consider the primal pattern of sacred place. Primal patterns are the ways that human beings have shaped their world, probably for tens of thousands of years. Inspired largely by the work of Mircea Eliade and influenced by the work of Carl Jung, this presentation explores the primal people's sense of place, particularly how the place that can be home, the cosmos, is separated from chaos. Without a sacred center, primal people would be lost in the wilderness, lost in chaos. But with a sacred center, the world becomes an orderly home, cosmos, rather than chaos. So what establishes a sacred center? A holy happening, an encounter with some presence that transcends the ordinary. That's called a hierophany, a manifestation of the holy. Human life and divine, holy life, touch at the center. Often fire will mark the center. Fire creates an upward movement, a vertical bridge that connects the earth and heaven, the human and the divine. So often at the center is fire. Often the center is marked by a vertical monument, a pole. The pole marked the axis mundi, the center point around which the world turned. This cosmic pole becomes the point of orientation, the center from which a people measured their home, the livable world, the cosmos. The vertical heavenward reach of the center was often expressed in a mountain, in high places of worship like those mentioned often in the Hebrew Scriptures. So the sacred center reaches heavenward in and through a cosmic pole. Why do you think that even today churches have steeples? So, what we've seen so far is that the cosmic pole, or axis mundi, serves as a center around which a people can organize their world, and so be at home. Establishing a center, then, at the same time founds a world, not just a physical place, but a place that can be safe habitation for humans. The symbol expressing a world made whole around a center is the mandala. In the mandala, the world is portrayed as a square within a circle divided into 4 quadrants. This pattern, the mandala, symbolizes making whole, bringing about cosmos and separating the ordered world from the surrounding chaos. The mandala may be found in the lotus flower, especially in South Asia. Indeed, the lotus has been the model of temples. Mandala may be discovered as a rose, or in a rose window like this one in the Cathedral of Notre Dame in Paris. The lotus, the rose window, all symbolize bringing order and peace, cosmos, in place of chaos. But at the same time, at the mandala's edge, the threshold, there's the call to reach beyond, to explore the chaotic, the unknown, the liminal. So, while the mandala's pattern expresses stable order, it may also launch creativity and provide a secure home base to support creativity. The cosmic pole archetype, the axis mundi, may be combined with the mandala, the integrating center. So, atop a cathedral spire, a cosmic pole, you often find a cross. Yes, the Christian cross is also a mandala, especially when circular motif is added, as in the Celtic cross, or when it describes equal quadrants, as in the Jerusalem cross. Mandala and cosmic pole archetypes influence modern city design, civilizing space. This is the center of the 1939 World's Fair site in Flushing, New York, with a sphere at the center and the cosmic pole right beside it. Founding a city, an urbis in Latin, is like creating a world, orbis terrarum, from chaos. Typically at the center you will find what the people considers the holy place. In many European cities, that's where the cathedral stands. In this secular democracy, it is the capital. You will find mandala patterns described in great literature. Here the mystical rose at the culmination of Dante's Paradiso, the mystical experience of the very throne of God in the highest heaven. Here force failed my high fantasy, but my desire and will were moved already like a wheel revolving uniformly by the love that moves the sun and the other stars. You may find the patterns of sacred place symbolism anywhere and everywhere. Now let's consider the primal pattern of sacred time. We will find that the organizing patterns of sacred time are analogous to those of sacred space. Our English words, based in the Latin, reflect that. Think temple and temporal. Think back to the mandala, the spatial symbol of integration. We'll find a similar pattern integrating time. Think of time as a circle. That's likely how primal peoples understood time, for seasons bring the return of the same, ends opening to new beginnings. But recognize that this circle is moving, turning. Turn, seasons follow seasons, one year following another, always the same, the eternal return of the same. One symbol of this cycling of time is the Ouroboros, a circled reptile devouring its own tail. The cycle of the sun divides the year into 4. The typical year begins anew at its ending, for when the sun is most distant, it begins to return. Hence, the winter solstice is a common New Year festival. The other 3 pivotal points are the spring equinox, also a common New Year festival time, the summer solstice, when the sun begins to recede, and the autumn equinox. The rhythm of the moon forms a second drum beat to the sun's rhythm. The moon cycles 3 times for every quarter of the sun's cycle. The moon's rhythm links to fertility, obviously because of the menstrual cycle, but also because the moon's pattern is growth to fullness, decline, darkness, like death, and then on the 3rd day of the darkness, rebirth. Symbolic numbers emerge from these rhythms: 4, 3, their sum in 7, their product in 12. The cycles of sun and moon also give us the pattern of yin and yang. In the time of greatest decline, the winter solstice or the dark of the moon, there is the spark of new beginning. In the time of greatest brightness, the full moon and the summer solstice, there begins the shadow of decline. Change, change, change. Primal peoples understood that their everyday ordinary time was somehow less than fully real, that there was also a timeless time, a time accessed in dreams and in rituals. That timeless time or dream time was the source of all, the time of origins. Dream time, the time of origins, embraced their ordinary everyday time. Everyday time was somehow centered in the time of origins. Most important to primal peoples was to be mindful of that embrace and that centering. And that was the source of all vitality and purpose. So at the very point of light's deepest decline, primal people sought to reconnect to that time of origins in order to renew their world, to reestablish their cosmos, a world that nourished their life. New Year rituals made that reconnection, typically at the winter solstice or at the start of spring. But before the cosmos could be renewed, the old cosmos had to be dissolved. The dissolution of the old ordered world was accomplished by suspending the rules of the social order and being immersed in chaos. The ritual expression of chaos, the orgy of intoxication and unbridled sexuality, also promised fertility, new life. Another expression of chaos was the extinguishing of all fires. Initiation rites were part of the New Year festival. Typically, the initiate underwent a symbolic death, a burial, an ordeal-like ceremonial wounding, a dangerous journey, or temporary exile. Emerging from that symbolic death, the initiate entered a new life. With the old order dissolved, next came the new beginning, the ceremonial kindling of a new fire, renewing the center, began the renewal of the cosmos. The New Year ritual renews the earth and promises fertility. This is most obvious in the spring New Year rituals. The sexual abandon of the ritual orgy is a fertility rite, prompting blooms, empowering seed. Once the cosmos has been restored, fertility empowered, and life renewed by the New Year ritual, a people could go on confidently for another year. There are echoes of primal time patterns in New Year rituals and contemporary life. There are rituals of light and renewal around the winter solstice. In the solstice festival itself, for instance, at Stonehenge, the lights at Christmas, the candles of Hanukkah. In spring, especially in New Orleans, the Mardi Gras festival echoes the New Year orgy. Of course, the next day is Ash Wednesday, restoring the cosmic order with the sobering reminder that you are dust, and unto dust you shall return. Bunnies and eggs at Easter? Might that have something to do with primal fertility rituals? You bet it does. Turns out, bunnies and eggs are symbols of the ancient European goddess Ostara, a spring fertility goddess, whose name gives us the title Easter. The maypole, another European spring custom, echoes the cosmic pole. Of course, the cosmic pole is phallic. Such an innocent ritual, it seems, especially with sweet young children dancing. But look closely, there's a bigger maypole in the background for young men and women, and for them the dance is likely more knowing and perhaps less innocent. Dancing is often a kind of mating ritual. The traditional foods of the Passover Seder link to agricultural fertility. The description of foods in Exodus chapter 12 echo Neolithic fertility rituals. Christian baptism echoes New Year initiation rites, especially baptism by immersion. A person is plunged into death and rises to new life. The Catholic Easter Vigil symbolizes the return to chaos by darkening the church. Then the ritual lighting of the new fire symbolizes renewed cosmos as the light spreads through the congregation. The blessing of the baptismal water is clearly a fertility ritual. The Easter candle, among other things a phallic symbol, is plunged 3 times into the water, which the accompanying prayer describes as the womb of the church. This ritual is a quite explicit echo of a primal hierogamy, a sacred sexual union. A caution: if you aren't alert to these patterns, it's easy inadvertently to make a fool of yourself. It has happened in a Catholic Easter Vigil service that a frugal pastor, worried about wetting the expensive Easter candle, slipped a plastic bag over the end of the candle right at the critical moment. So you will find in present life that many things reveal a kind of layering of symbols from the primal all the way to the contemporary. To the Neolithic agricultural fertility festival, the Passover added symbolic deliverance from slavery to freedom. To those layers, the Lord's Supper in the New Testament added the Christian story of death and resurrection. That symbolic package became Easter, seasoned with the bunnies and the eggs from the goddess Ostara. Whether we are conscious of them or not, primal patterns of sacred time echo in our present life. If you understand those patterns, you open awareness of a depth and richness in ordinary things and events.